Hi everybody, Namaste. My name is Ruki and welcome back to part 2 of this 3-part series on how yoga transforms the mind and body. You're probably here because you know yoga works, but maybe you're not quite sure how. Maybe you've dipped your toes into the science, but terms like vagal tone or heart rate variability left you feeling a little bit lost. Maybe yogic philosophy intrigued you, but concepts like koshas or gunas still feel abstract, and you're wondering how they can translate into actual experience on the mat or in life. Maybe, like me, you've sensed that both worlds, the scientific and the spiritual, hold value, and you're looking for a bridge, a way to bring them together in a way that feels clear and grounded. If this sounds like you, then you're in the right place. I've spent the last 6 years immersed in both, studying yoga deeply through trainings, courses, and practice, and diving deep into neuroscience through academic research. And what I've come to realize is this. Yoga and science might use different words, but more often than not, they're pointing towards similar underlying truths. In this video, we'll start to decode both languages. We'll explore what the mind-body connection really means through the lens of science and yogic philosophy, so we can better understand how yoga impacts this relationship and offers deep shifts in how we think, how we move, how we feel, and how we live. Let's begin. Okay, science first. The dominant view here is materialism, meaning that most scientists believe that the mind emerges from physical processes, particularly neuronal activity. So the mind-body connection here is most commonly understood through the nervous system, which consists of the central nervous system, that's your brain and spinal cord, and your peripheral nervous system, which is basically all the nerves that connect the central nervous system to the rest of the body. Your nervous system is your body's primary communication and coordination network. It's constantly gathering information from your internal state and external environment, processing it, and then sending signals back to help you function smoothly. Within the peripheral nervous system, there's a key subdivision we'll focus on. That's your autonomic nervous system. You've probably heard of this one before. It's the part that runs in the background, mostly outside our conscious control. It regulates all the essential life functions that keep you alive, like your heart rate, your breathing, your digestion, your blood pressure, and more. Now, the autonomic nervous system has two main branches. Your sympathetic nervous system, often called the fight or flight response. It kicks in during perceived threats, whether you're running from a tiger or reacting to that passive-aggressive email from your boss. It prepares your body for quick action. On the other side, you have your parasympathetic nervous system, often called your rest and digest system. It's the stress relief response that supports recovery, relaxation, and repair. It brings your system back to balance after a stress response. These two branches are constantly working in dynamic interplay, adjusting their influence based on what's happening in and around you. The goal here is to maintain homeostasis, which is basically maintaining a relatively stable internal environment even as the world around you changes. Too hot, you sweat. Too cold, you shiver. Stressed? Well, ideally return to calm. But here's the catch. The human nervous system evolved to handle short bursts of stress, like escaping a predator or bracing for a storm. But in today's world, we're constantly under pressure. Notifications, deadlines, noise, sensory overload, we're always switched on, always overstimulated. And when the stress response stays chronically active, the system can't reset. When we're pushed beyond our capacity to return to balance, that's when dysfunction sets in. Chronic stress has been linked to everything from anxiety, insomnia, digestion issues, and immune dysfunction. And this isn't just an individual struggle. It's a collective nervous system crisis of our modern society. And this is where yoga enters the scene. Did you know that when scientists first began studying yoga, they weren't focused on flexibility? They were measuring brain waves, hormone levels, heart rhythms. A lot of the early research was actually done on patient populations because, like many of us, they had the sense that yoga could be therapeutic. And they were right. Across practices, asana, pranaya, meditation, yoga increased parasympathetic activity and reduced markers of stress. It helps shift people out of chronic activation and back into balance. That's why we feel calmer, grounded, and rejuvenated after a yoga practice. But this is just one way of understanding what's happening. Now let's shift gears and look at the mind-body connection through the lens of yogic philosophy. According to the scriptures, yoga's purpose isn't just to help us feel better. It's a spiritual science, a system of transformation. And at its core is the concept of the self, not as a single solid entity, but as something layered, dynamic, multidimensional. Each individual is described not just as body and mind, but composed of 5 concentric sheaths. This framework is known as pancha koshas, pancha meaning 5, and koshas meaning sheath or layer. Each layer represents a different frequency or level of experience, from gross to subtle. Here's a helpful way to think about it. You can understand how the body and mind operate in different dimensions. One is tangible and physical, the other intangible, non-physical. But they're constantly interacting, constantly influencing each other, and together they shape a sense of me. In yoga, this relationship is expanded into 5 layers of the self. For the purposes of this video, we'll only focus on 3. The first is your Annamaya kosha. Anna meaning food, Maya meaning made of, kosha meaning layer or sheath. This is your physical body, made of flesh, muscles, bones, organs. It's the most visible, tangible layer, and the one we work on directly through asanas, through our diet, through cleansing practices like your kriyas. The second layer is your Pranamaya kosha, the energetic body. Now this is the realm of prana, the vital life force that permeates the universe and animates everything. In living beings, prana flows through this layer to give us a sense of aliveness. See, there's no exact English equivalent for this term, which is why it can be hard to grasp. But if you're familiar with the concept of qi in Chinese medicine or martial arts, it's a similar idea. A subtle energy that's constantly moving to support our vitality and maintain internal balance. The third layer is your Manomaya kosha, the mental emotional body. This is the realm of your thoughts, emotions, memories, sensory impressions, essentially your mind. And just for completeness, the other 2 layers are your Vijnanamaya kosha, your wisdom body, and your Anandamaya kosha, your bliss body. But they are out of scope of this video. What's key to notice here is the Pranamaya kosha sits right between the physical and the mental. It serves as the bridge, yoga's version of the mind-body connection. And instead of neurons and synapses, this system speaks of prana flowing through energetic channels called nadis. A smooth, balanced flow of prana is essential for the proper functioning of both the body and mind. When this flow becomes blocked, imbalance sets in, and over time, disease can manifest. This can be a little hard to imagine because it's not visible. You can't dissect nadis with a scalpel. But if you sit still, quiet, and you observe long enough, you might be able to feel subtle energy move in specific ways inside your body. That's what the yogis did, and it's how they mapped the subtle body. Out of the 72,000 nadis, 3 are especially important. The first is your Ida nadi. Emerging from the left side of the body, it's associated with Luna, feminine energy, as well as a sense of coolness and calm. Emerging from the right is your Pingala nadi. It's linked to solar and masculine energy, and its activation tends to be heating and energizing. And last but not the least is Sushumna nadi, the central channel that connects all 7 major chakras, from the Mooladhara chakra at the base of the spine to Sahasrara at the crown of the head. In yogic tradition, Sushumna is the pathway through which Kundalini energy rises, a dormant potential set to rest at the base of the spine. To activate this channel, we must balance the opposing forces of Ida and Pingala. When the body and mind are in harmony and the conditions allow, Kundalini energy can start to move upward through the chakras, unlocking higher and higher states of awareness and ultimately culminating in Samadhi, a state of pure absorption and bliss. Activating Sushumna is considered the central aim of all yogic practice because it's seen as the pathway to freedom. So, while better sleep, focus, and mood are real and meaningful benefits of the yoga practice, from this perspective, they're simply side effects. The true goal is something much deeper: evolution, liberation, samadhi. So just a quick recap. In science, the mind-body connection is explained through the nervous system, and in yoga, it's understood through the pranamaya kosha. So how do we bridge these two frameworks? Well, despite operating on different planes or dimensions of experience, one tangible and physical, the other intangible and subtle, the parallels in structure and function are striking. In terms of structure, both describe a central channel with branching pathways. And in terms of function, Ida, with its cooling and calming properties, resembles the parasympathetic nervous system, while Pingala, with its heating and activating properties, resembles the sympathetic nervous system. Shushumna, while not identical to the central nervous system, runs along the same central axis. Its activation is associated with enhanced awareness, clarity, and internal regulation, which correlates with a more coherent and integrated nervous system activity. Another similarity is that both systems emphasize that internal balance is essential for health and well-being, and that imbalance is often the root of dysfunction. And finally, both systems also recognize breath as a crucial access point to changing your internal state. Okay, so now that we've explored the theory, in the next video, we'll begin to apply it, diving deep into the power of breath. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.